durvalumab in the extensive small cell CA. So for the last few years, small cell lung cancer was without any progress compared to NSCLC and breast cancer. So uh, these will add to the treating armamentarium of molecules, which shows a significant improvement in the OS, which is not very common in small cell CA. So we all know that small cell CA constitutes only a minority of the lung cancer cases compared to NSCLC. So it is roughly constituting around 15% of the lung cancers, and the US here we are being provided the US data. So 3 lakh 10,300, that is the new cases, and among those 30% of the cases were small cell CA compared to 2 lakh of NSCLC. So it is roughly constituting around 15% of the cases, but it has got a higher mortality rate. So it constitutes around 18.4% of the total deaths. And 5-year survival is very less than 20%. In fact, it is less than 5% as it is given in the standard textbooks. Means not much of progress in the last 10-15 years. The repetition of the previous slides, that is 15 to 20% of the NSC small cell lung cancer constitutes the total composition of the lung cancers newly diagnosed, and among those extensive stage constitutes around 79 to 90% of the cases. And we all know that limited stage is treated by CTRT, concomitant CTRT, and extensive stage is treated by palliative chemotherapy. So the AIMS data has got given a this is a clubbed data of small cell and small cell limited stage and extensive stage, and median PFS of the entire clubbed limited and extensive stage is around 11.4 months as per the AIMS. I don't think they are living so long to get a PFS. So here only 51 were extensive and 34 were limited. Still, it is very high compared to the national population. The Adyar Institute's data reflects what we are seeing in our clinical practice. That is, the PFS is roughly around 6 months, and median OS is around 8 to 11 months. Here it is 7.2 months. So this is a repetition of what we have already described. Extensive stage constitutes around two-thirds of the small cell lung cancer patients, and limited stage around 1/3. We all know the definition of limited stage. That is confined to one radiation portal, typically confined to one hemithorax, with or without the regional lymph nodes. And extensive stage spread outside the radiation port, that is spread to outside the originally affected lung. And what is the natural chemotherapy response of small cell lung cancer? They all respond to chemotherapy very well, but they will bounce back. So initial response of first line treatment is around 70 to 90% of the in a limited stage, and in extensive stage is 50 to 60%, and approximately 80% of the limited stage, and almost 100% of the extensive disease will relapse. So, with a median PFS of 4 to 6 months following the standard of first line treatment. So, what we are seeing in clinical practice is that they all respond initially very well. Then, after around 4 to 6 months, that is roughly between the 4 and 6 cycle, they stop responding, and they will have a recurrence, which is going to be fatal in the coming months. So, what is the advances we have witnessed in the history of small cell lung cancers? We all know that when we were students, cisplatin etoposide was the only treatment available. So, this is a good slide. So, they have marked the different slides as first line and recurrent setting, and along with RT also. So, the color code is important. So, the blue is first line setting. So, carbo and ito, then continued in the 80s. Then the IV topotecan came as a second line in 1998, and in the 90s, chemoradiation come into the forte. Then this topotecan, oral topotecan, it has been is currently not available in India. It was available briefly in the last decade. So that was also very effective in the second line. And then PCI was introduced in the year 1999, and nivolumab, then atezolizumab, then durvalumab. They came in a bunch of new immunotherapy molecules in the 2018 and 19. So currently 3 and 4, even Pembro is approved in the second line. So 4 immunotherapy molecules are approved in the small cell CA setup. So, but what is the rationale behind this study? Even without, even with local RT, PCI, and everything, the people of extensive cell, small cell, extensive disease, small cell lung cancers live less than a year, and durability of response is very poor. After 4 to 6 months, everybody relapses. So we need a better first line treatment, because after 4 to 6 months, the PFS is lost. So, and another thing is that the toxicity is comparatively more, and with higher rate of relapse in small cell CA compared to non-NSCLC. And many of them, in fact, around 10% of the patients have asymptomatic brain metastasis, contributing to the poor prognosis. So, what is the rationale of immune checkpoint inhibitors in chemotherapy in small cell CA? We are not doing the PD-L1 testing in small cell CA. So, it is somewhat closely related to tumor mutation burden. So, chemotherapy induced tumor cell killing. Chemotherapy induced tumor cell killing may induce.
I can give you more price what they are offering. I can give you more price as what they are offering.
Chemotherapy induced small cell CA. Sorry. Some foreign noises came in between, so I'll continue. Chemotherapy-induced tumor cell killing may induce tumor cell antigen, tumor antigen release, and exposure to immune system. PDL1 overexpression leads to immune cell invasion and T cell inhibition. And PD1 and PDL1 inhibition restores tumor specific T cell immunity. So reversal of the immune suppression leads to deeper, more durable systemic anti-tumor response. So as we can see from these cartoons, PDL1 inhibitors restores the tumor specific T cell immunity. So T cell immunity works in a better way combating the tumor. So immunotherapy plays a role in eliciting the anti-cancer response by modulating our own immune system. And high tumor mutation burden of SCLC allow this tumor to be susceptible to immunotherapy. So this is not quantitatively measured by the PDL1, but it is somewhat related to TMB, tumor mutation burden. But here, in this study, retrospectively, we are evaluating the PDL1 and TMB, but when it is presented in Lancet, it is not based on that tumor markers or PDL1 or TMB. The timing of immunotherapy in relation to other therapies, in particular to chemotherapy, is critical to allowing the disease control and development of immune response. So this is the Caspian study. It's a phase 3 open label. Remember, open label multi-center study. So treatment naive extensive cell small extensive stage small cell lung cancers, around 800 odd patients. It is a first line treatment. Both the platinum derivatives were allowed compared to the Empower 133 study where atezolizumab where only carboplatin was allowed. Here you can use either carboplatin or cisplatin. So durvalumab started from the day one itself, 3 weekly for 4 cycles, then followed by 4 weekly till disease progression. And in the investigation arm, that is the testing arm, it is clubbed with platinum and etoposide in the standard doses. Platinum is used AUC 5 to 6, and cisplatin, if you are using cisplatin, it is used in 75 to 80 milligram per meter square, and along with etoposide 80 to 100 milligram per meter square. And durvalumab is since it is used as a 3 weekly and 4 weekly cycles, the dose is slightly different. It is not 10 milligram per kg as in CTRT. It is a rounded dose of 1500 milligram, fixed dose, either as a 3 weekly during chemotherapy, and after that as a maintenance in 4 weekly cycles. The primary endpoint is OS, and the secondary endpoints are EFS, overall response rate, OS at 18 months, and quality of life, safety and tolerability. And PDL1 expression analysis was done. It is still not published. And OS and PFS analysis in patient with or without baseline brain metastasis were also done. Here in Caspian study, one thing, we were all giving PCI. So in this study, they have given PCI in the control arm only because they are not sure about doing PCI along with the durvalumab immune checkpoint inhibitors. So we don't have an experience about giving PCI along with the immunotherapy. So in the study arm, they withheld the PCI. In the control arm, it is allowed as per the treating physician's discretion. Median age is around 62 years in the study arm. In the control arm is around 63 years. Males were constituting around 70% of the patients because small cell CA is common in males and smokers. White Asians and others were in the ratio of 85.4 slash 13.4 slash 1.1, and mainly were WHO performance status. One patient constituted around 60+% of the patients, and performance status 0 was seen in around 35% of the patients. And mainly, we all know that it's a metastatic study, so some patient probably after chemo radiation, some stage 3 patients were also there, and majority, around 90% of the patients were. This is the TNM classification. We are not here. It is given as a TNM. 90% of the patients were stage 4. Brain metastasis patients were around 10% of the patients in each arm, and liver metastasis constituting around 40% of the patient in either arm. And mainly people were given carboplatin, and cisplatin roughly constitutes around 25% of the patients. And here, this is also worth mentioning in the Caspian study. In the study arm, the cycles of carbo or cis plus ito was confined to 4 cycles. In the control arm, it was given up to 6 cycles. That is given around 4 to 6 cycles. The median number of cycles in the study arm was around 4, because only 4 is allowed. In the control arm, it is 6, up to 6 are allowed, and median duration, total duration of durvalumab was around 28 weeks. Median total cycles were around 7. Since it's a very aggressive tumor, probably we will not see 20-25 cycles like that. So among the 265 patients received durvalumab, 32 patients were continue on durvalumab. That is roughly constituting around 12% of the patients, and completed those who have completed EP or discontinued EP were around 223 patients in the study arm and 190 patients in the control arm. And subsequent treatment, subsequent PCI, as we already discussed, it was not allowed in the durvalumab arm, but it was allowed in the EP arm. So 8% of the patients received PCI, and subsequent anti-cancer therapy was given in 51% of the patients, 51 number of patients in the study arm, and 49 patients in the EP arm. So this is the result. Median OS is around 13 months in the EP arm, and 10.5 months in the control arm. Hazard ratio is 0.75. You can see that roughly, is the for between 4 and 6 cycles, the curves are separating. That means that is what we are seeing in our clinical practice. Everybody responds initially, then the control arm is suddenly going down. And what about the study arm? Study arm is still, it has got a healthy slant, so it is not dipping down drastically. So the p-value is also highly significant. So when we are tracking at 1 year, the OS is roughly half of the patients are alive. 52.8% of the patients are alive at the end of 1 year in the study arm. But what about the control arm? That is only about 39.3% of the patients. At the end of 1.5 years, it is 32 versus 24.8. And at the end of 2 years, it is 22.2 percentage versus 14.4 percent of the patients. So at the end of 2 years, still the OS is really significant. There is a good separation between the graphs, and you can see that the OS there is a 6% improvement in the OS at the end of 2 years, which is very remarkable because the OS at 2 years, roughly quarter of your patients are alive in a small cell CA. That is a remarkable achievement. If you are seeing the subset analysis, all subset of the patients were are improved, whether it is a cisplatin or carboplatin. And in the elderly people, it is less impressive. That is common with any treatment. And in PF performance status 1 and 2, 0 and 1, it is still good. And whether it is a brain metastasis or not much of difference. And liver metastasis, as we all know, is a visceral event, so hazard ratio is only 0.87. And across the world, Asians are less impressive, but Europe and North America, South America are doing well. What about the updated confirmed objective response rate? At 1 year, the overall response rate is around 67.9 months in the study arm, and in the EP arm it is 58%. And at 1 year, 23.2% of the patients were continuing to respond, and at 2 years, around 13.5% of the patients were still responding. You may think that it is a very low percentage, but if you are comparing with what is the available standard of treatment, look at this. This is only 3.9% of the patients in the control arm at 2 years responding to treatment.
ये तो आज ज्यादा ही सो रहे थे या टेंटे बुके तो बैठा था, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था पता नहीं कहाँ है.
So if you are seeing that the updated progression frees are available at it's a continuation of the previous slide, EP versus the D plus EP. So at 12 months it is 17.9 months and 5.3 months, 5.3%, and at 2 years it is around 11% versus 2.9%. So if you are tracking the timeline at 6 months, the PFS is 45.4 months, and at 1 year it is 17.9 months. At 1.5 years it's 13.9 months, the 9%, and at 2 years the PFS is 11%. So if you are comparing it with the EP arm, the initial 4 to 6 months, like we are seeing in our clinical practice, around half of the patients are still very much there, and Then at 1 year, there is a sudden dip in the PFS of the EP arm. So here it is much more sober. So at 2 years, around 11 months, PFS, 11% of the patients on the DEP have got PFS maintained. What about the OS based on the brain metastasis? So patient without or with brain metastasis, they all responding very well. So if you are seeing this this on the left side of the median, still with brain metastasis, the hazard ratio is 0.73, and without brain metastasis is 0.78. So the median PFS with brain metastasis is 4.7 months, and without brain metastasis 5.2 months. What about the subsequent treatment? So if you are calculating the OS, the subsequent treatment is really important. So what they are receiving subsequently, that is also very important. But in the case of lung cancer, small cell lung cancer, it is not very much there as a potent second line treatment other than topotecan and irinotecan or some alkylators. We are not using much of second line treatment, and people are not living enough to receive a second line treatment if you are seeing the clinical scenario. So here in this study, most of the people received a single line single agent in around 21% of the patients, and a doublet in around 20% of the patients. And see, among the single agents, immunotherapy was given in roughly 5%, five number of patients. That is around 2% of the patients. And combination of immunotherapy and chemotherapy was not given. Immunotherapy plus another immunotherapy, that is nivolumab and ipilimumab, was given in 1% of the patient. So if you are seeing the last column, the people who are receiving more than 2 subsequent line of treatment were very less, because they are not alive to receive those treatment, or their performance status dips suddenly not to receive this treatment any longer. What about the adverse effects? Grade 3 and grade 4 adverse effects were seen in around 62% of the patients, and serious among those life-threatening adverse effects were seen in around 10% of the treatment. That is, adverse event leading to treatment discontinuation was seen around 27 number of patients, that is constituting around 10.2% of the patients. And immune mediators adverse effects, mainly hypothyroidism is seen, and liver toxicity. So it was seen in around 20% of the patients. And one patient and adverse effect leading to death was seen in around 2.3%. In this study in Lancet, the liver toxicity was the common adverse effect leading to death. So the Caspian study adverse effects, the chart, around 50% of the patients in the study arm received GCSF support, and 13% of the patients received blood transfusions. Febrile neutropenia was seen in 5% of the patients, anemia 2%, pneumonia 2%, and hyponatremia 1%. Rest of the things are very less. So summarize this Caspian study, and after that we will do another 3-4 slides comparing with the peers. So US FDA approved durvalumab in combination with cisplatin or carboplatin plus etoposide based on the Caspian study for the first line treatment of adult patients with the extensive stage small cell CA. This approval is based on the phase 3 Caspian trial that demonstrated a statistically significant and clinically meaningful improvement OS compared to EP alone, and risk of death was reduced by 27%, and median OS is around 13 months in the study arm compared with 10.3 months in the standard of care arm. So it is currently approved in India also. So this is Empower 133, which has given carbo etoposide approval Tecentriq. So here it is also a similar study, but here cisplatin is not allowed, carbo and ito with atezolizumab, and the control arm is carbo and ito, and rest of the things are common. So the median OS in this study is also comparable. 6 months OS is around 6 months PFS is 30.9% in the Tecentriq arm versus 22.4 months in the placebo arm. 12 months PFS is around 12.5 months in the Tecentriq arm, 12.5% in the Tecentriq. 12 months PFS is 12.5 versus 5.4 months. So median OS, 12 months OS is 51.7% in the Tecentriq arm compared to 38.2% in the placebo arm. So here also almost similar. At the end of 4 months, the curves are separating, and it is maintained till the end, the OS as well as the PFS. The primary endpoint is again OS. So this is also can correlate with our Caspian study. So here the median OS is around 12.3 months in the Empower 133 versus 10.4 months in the control arm. Almost similar, but there are some differences that we are describing in this slide. Both studies didn't do any biomarker selection, either PDL1 or TMB. People are not stratified as per the randomized as per the biomarker selection, and in untreated brain metastases were excluded in the Empower 133, but around 10% of the patients were included in the Caspian study. The PCA was allowed in the control arm. That we already discussed that matter in both the studies. And in the experimental arm, some patients were allowed in the Empower 133, but like we described in the Caspian study, since there is very little data of concomitant immunotherapy along with the PCI, it was not given in the Caspian study. And up to 6 cycles of cisplatin or carboplatin plus etoposide was allowed in the Caspian study. But in the Empower study, the cycles were limited to only 4 cycles only. And cisplatin was allowed in the Caspian study, and only carboplatin was allowed in the Empower study. So in Caspian, around 25% of the patients received cisplatin, and the rest of the 75% of the patients received carboplatin. So what we are seeing in the Caspian study is more of a what we are doing in our clinics. We were using in some patients cisplatin also, and some patients with asymptomatic brain metastasis were included, and in the control arm, we are using though textbook says 4 to 6 cycles, we were using 6 cycle and sometimes even more than 6 cycles, but there is no data that patients are benefiting beyond 4 cycles. So 4 to 6 cycle is the standard textbook teaching. So this is that the latest NCCN, carboplatin, etoposide and durvalumab is included in the NCCN, and cisplatin along with etoposide is also included as per the Caspian study. So to conclude today's presentation, first line durvalumab and EP was showing a sustained improvement in the OS, reflective of the real world scenario, up to 6 compared to the real world scenario of up to 6 cycles of EP and the use of PCI. And durvalumab is the only immune checkpoint inhibitors providing flexibility of choosing cisplatin and carboplatin. That in this study, as per the study, but in I think we can use cisplatin or carboplatin along with Tecentriq also. So there is nothing preventing. But if you are strictly going by the study pattern, then the Empower study cisplatin was not allowed. But in the Caspian study, both were used. Benefit of durvalumab plus EP was observed across all subgroups, include brain metastasis in the subgroup. And more than 22% of the patients surviving even after 2 years. That we have specifically shown to you that around 22% of the patients were surviving at the end of 2 years. And it has got a high response rate and demonstrated ongoing responses at 2 years in 3 times more patients than the EP arm. And it has got a very convenient dosing schedule of every 28 days in the maintenance phase. And safety profile is consistent with the rest of the immunotherapy trials. So it is currently one of the standard of care and very effective one. So that is the end of today's presentation. Any questions or